planner is here as well. I think he would like to speak about that subject. And so if you guys are willing to let him speak about that, I think this would be a great opportunity for him to talk, so.
Oh, you want me to start right off?
Yeah, sorry, I
You're the
should have
one.
given you like a warning that you were like
I didn't,
lead off batter.
This is a common conversation that I've had with residents and others. And obviously words are important. Nomenclature is important. And sometimes the conversation is couched in a minimal density versus a maximum density. And on the one hand, there are residents that say, hey, we really need to pursue as our value the least density possible. And sometimes the accusation is the leadership of the township is pushing for the maximum density possible. And so I wanted to clarify that I think for the trustees, and I can only speak for myself and conversations with Adam and Dave, that we're not interested in maximum density. That really would be out of character for who we are as a township, and not at all what we would desire. And in fact, when we look at the density that's, for instance, a part of Columbus along the Hamilton Road corridor, we look at that and we say that's an example of what we really don't want to see in Harlan Township. And when we look at the Russ Miller property and see 12 units per acre, which is the maximum density currently in the township, we're like, okay, that's good. And it's a little lot that's at the beginning of the township. And I don't know that anyone has a desire to see us go beyond that kind of density. The question is pursuing minimal density. And for me, when I've had conversations with surrounding townships or municipalities or organizations that do planning, what is often said is density is not a bad word, nor is it necessarily a bad concept. And we look at it, I think, in just the very word itself is a put on. And so I want us to rethink whether that's an accurate assessment or not. And then to think about the word that I put in front of density, which is appropriate. What is the appropriate density? And then you have to think about location, that there will be parts of the township that are more dense than others. That you'll have greater density here than there. And that kind of a metric, I think, will evolve through a planning process, through conversations with developers over time. So I did a little research and want to run through some bullet points to get them on the record.
Sure.
Okay. So the first one is fiscal health and tax-based sustainability. Large lot homes often lose money for a township in many regions once you add the full lifetime costs of children in the schools. Studies in various states repeatedly show that houses on 2 to 10 acre lots generate less property tax revenue than the long-term cost of servicing them. When you think about fire, police, roads, etc. Contrast with moderate density housing, and now we're talking about smaller lots, single family, in some cases, multifamily, typically produces a strong positive fiscal surplus per acre. A township that allows some of this can keep taxes lower for everyone in the long run. And so if you're looking at the next 25 to 50 years, and we're making these kinds of decisions, we have to think about the economic impact of these decisions. Number two, housing affordability and generational equity. Minimal density zoning is the single biggest driver of high housing costs in growing metro areas. It artificially restricts supply. Teachers, firefighters, young families, and the township's own children cannot afford to live here anymore. Appropriate density, that is the missing middle housing, or we talk about accessory dwellings, gentle upzoning near, let's say, a center village, lets the next generation stay. 3, environmental and infrastructure efficiency. Sprawl on 2 to 10 acre lots consumes far more land, creates more impervious surface per household, increases vehicle miles driven, and fragments habitat. So I'm going to give a specific example where we built on a 100-acre field between Keene and 605, bordered by Fancher and Bevelheim. There was a decision made not to design, let's say, a conservative subdivision where we had 50% open space and then smaller lots and perhaps more houses, but instead to take that entire 100 acres and divide it into 2 and 5 acre parcels. And so now we've got about 38 houses that just consume that entire landscape. And aesthetically, it's certainly not the most appealing. Design-wise, it's probably not the most appealing. And over the long haul, the environmental impact of that kind of a development is more detrimental than not for the life of the township. Do all of those homeowners have the house, their dream homes? Yep, and I'm one of them. Okay, I built on a 3 acre lot. My sister built behind me on an 8 acre lot. You know, we built here in 2005 while that was all field. But is that the best way for the township to develop moving forward? Number 4, aging in place and changing demographics. Empty nesters and seniors on fixed incomes often want to downsize but stay in the same community. Minimal density zoning offers them few legal options. They are forced to move away. Allowing other kinds of density or multifamily housing near an existing town center, for example, gives them more choices. But supporting local businesses and workable or walkable centers, small stores, cafes, post offices, and volunteer firefighting, which we don't have, die when everyone moves or lives miles apart. Moderate density in and around historic crossroads or villages creates the customer base needed to keep those places alive, which when we're thinking about the future of the township and Center Village. 6, transportation costs and climate goals. The average household in a 3 to 5 acre lot township drives 30 to 50% more than one in a walkable small town or village setting. That's expensive for families and bad for emissions. States and the federal government are increasingly tying transportation and climate grants to municipalities that allow a more reasonable density. 7, legal and fair share housing obligations. Now, in some states, and this is going to list some states that I don't think that we would align ourselves with: New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Oregon, and California.
Hide the rope.
Those are all different kinds of states, have laws that lean toward providing fair share or affordable, moderate, or income housing. All right, and they strike down low density as exclusionary. And so the point that's made here is that allowing appropriate density is frequently the path of least legal resistance. So while we don't want to use those extreme examples, and we say, no, that's not us, we don't see Ohio going that direction. I think it is fair to say that as developers work on plans in the township, an openness to some moderation in density will save us legal fights that a minimal density position might not cause. 8, resilience and future proofing. A township that zones almost everything in 2 to 5 acre lots effectively bets everything on continued demand for large, expensive, car-dependent homes. Demographic and economic shifts, that is, remote work changes, energy costs, millennial or Gen Z preferences, can leave it with stagnant property values and an aging population that become unable to downsize down the road. So, suggestions. Practical middle ground approaches some townships are adopting. Keeping a large percentage of the land in agriculture, conservation, or very low density. So that should absolutely be a goal as we look across the township. Very reasonable for us to say there are large swaths of Harlan Township that we don't imagine to be anything other than low density. Allow 4 to 12 dwelling units per acre only in or immediately around existing hamlets, villages, or key strategic areas. So limit the areas where you have 4 to 12. Permit accessory dwelling units, and that's where you've got 2 homes on one property, like an in-law suite. Duplexes and small cottage courts by right. All right, tiny homes, etc. Use transfer development rights to permanently preserve farms while directing growth to designated nodes. So bottom line, minimal density zoning feels safe and preserves the status quo for current large lot owners, but it often slowly bankrupts the township, excludes the next generation, harms the environment more than people think, and invites legal challenges. Appropriate, well-designed density concentrated in the places that already have roads, a post office, census center, etc., lets a township stay rural in character while remaining fiscally healthy, fair, environmentally responsible, and livable for people of all ages and incomes. And I would argue that this is I think a reasonable approach to density, and that in one in which we not only want to be responsive to the current concerns of residents, but we also want to be thinking about what is best for our township for the future. I think that we have to balance those two things when we're making decisions. The document you're working on it's not a legal document. It's providing a trajectory of ideas. And I can only speak for me, this trustee, would like to see a document that is reflective of the potential growth in the future and meeting the needs that I think that the township is going to have in decade 1, 2, and 3 working out, and providing trustees with some guardrails as they walk down that.
Why isn't that this document? I mean, it's not gonna be legal.
This document.
You gotta change zoning
So
to do anything formally.
yes. So what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting, I don't know what you're suggesting.
Oh,
I heard you say that this document's not legal.
right.
But we need something that provides guidelines. Well, this is a guide rails document.
Yes.
So how do you put teeth in it?
So what I think happens, Steve, is that we had a comprehensive plan in 22, defensive in nature. The work done after Intel. This is more aspirational looking forward. I would guess that what happens in the next 2 to 4 years is now it's time to revisit our comprehensive plan. in light of the,
Well, that's fine, but that also is not law,
So,
right? It's not. I mean, it's again, it is a guideline document from which zoning commission then decides where and when they should change the zoning resolution.
and that is part of that process, working on the zone.
Okay, well, I think I mean, to me, that's just double work.
well, isn't it, it's exactly what we did with the
Yeah, I mean,
strategic
so
plan.
you're just tracking
tracking
back
it.
over stuff we've already done.
But this is, I think, part and parcel of what the township will be doing for the foreseeable future is this continuous planning process in a changing environment. So that the zoning we had 5 years ago will have to change.
Well, we are too. I mean, it's a living animal, zoning is.
Granted.
And, you know, it's, if you grant me, a chance to say a few things. I'm hearing from people who, through the meetings and through the course of this process, kind of woke up to the fact that the overlay for the southern half of the township could allow 6 houses per acre. That's high density. And I don't think people really, at the time, the the first strategic planning committee was working through that and got that overlay approved. Which I remember saying to Holly back then, I'm surprised people didn't really realize what this allowed, because it's not clear, but you gotta have 50% set aside, so 100-acre property, right?
Yeah.
50% has to be set aside. But it would allow still 3 per 100-acre to be built, so that when that gets pushed in to the other 50%, that's 6 per acre. That's what people are looking at and saying, wow, I don't want that. I didn't expect that. And that is a legal zoning offering. Now, you could say the trustees would have to approve a overlay proposal from the developer. But you also have laid out a mechanism via the overlay for a developer to come in and put that in front of you. You'd have a hard time saying no to it if you didn't, without getting sued. And if when you approve it, it's not referendable. That's the other thing that people didn't fully understand in overlays. So you have little power to stop 6 houses per acre in the southern half of Harlem Township once there's sewers.
Let's bring it back. Thank you.
No,
for your
but that's,
comments.
do you disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with
Okay,
that.
so how are you gonna, you made a speech here about how the trustees don't have an interest, is 6 per acre is that high density to you?
It depends on where. Where is it appropriate?
Oh, sorry, nice try. That's high density.
So.
You can't cut that any other way.
I don't think it's fair to say it's 6 units per acre.
Yes, it is.
It's 3 units across the,
6 per
okay,
acre.
I'm not gonna argue, it's.
Legally and technically, that's what it is.
May I interject? This is Maureen. May I interject? Steve, excuse me. I think that we're trying to do something that isn't really within our charter, which is the strategic document is not a zoning document. It's a visionary and inspirational document, aspirational document. And I think what, to your point, Steve, is that what happened is that through the process, people started looking at zoning overlays that are in place currently.
Correct.
The strategic document really is not the thing that establishes the zoning densities. Not at all. And so I think we're bogging down this strategic document on things that should be handled elsewhere.
Well, perhaps the strategic document should make a recommendation to the trustees to go back and revisit some of the zoning.
It does say that.
It does say that.
It
It
does.
doesn't give specific recommendations.
That's because there are certain places with certain densities that will evolve over time. But with pockets, they have to look at the existing tree stands and the, where are the floodplains and this gives them the guiding post to make those decisions.
Who's gonna put the specific proposals then?
That's
coming
not
out
what
of
this
this
document
in
is
front of
for.
the trustees?
A strategic document is to provide high
But
level
who's gonna
guiding.
work it out?
Alright, I'm
That's-
gonna have
That's what
to,
we're gonna do.
yeah,
Who is?
The
the trustees are
trustees,
responsible
the
for it.
residents of the township.
Guys, this is Alice Uhas. If I could just pipe in for a moment. I thought that I was attending a strategic planning committee meeting tonight and this afternoon, and I don't feel that way. Sorry, I'm not feeling the best, so I'm not there in person. But I think we all have ideas of what high density is. To me, the proposed Russ Miller subdivision with apartments and condos and strip malls, 694 units on 64.08 acres. To me, that's high density. It's going to occur at a roundabout. If it's approved for this to go through, I see that as high density. John, I don't think you see that as a high density because it involves having a planned community for the elderly, et cetera. And I think for our document to be meaningful, we do need to define what is minimum, what is moderate, what is high density in a way that all the residents can connect with and understand. Otherwise, it's all arbitrary. And I know what's appropriate for some of us is not appropriate for others. And that's when we do need to make the hard choices and say, okay, 5 units per 2 acres is appropriate, and 694 is not appropriate for 64 acres. So unless we can do that hard work, I don't see where we're going to have a lot of meaningful language in our planning document. And yes, it's going to be just high level, but if it's not easily transferable into the zoning law, it's going to lose its meaning. And that's just my 2 cents, and I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'll
Alice.
stop, but
Yeah.
John Shanghai the meeting at the outset, but I think a bunch of stuff that's irrelevant. Because it's not actionable, it's flowery. I think it serves no purpose. And so given the fact that he took the first 20 minutes, I think I've got a right to put the concern that a lot of people have. And so and then in the end, if you don't get something moving as a byproduct of the great work this committee has done, I want to acknowledge the great work. But it's got to turn into more, I mean, just a piece of paper that's on, on the wall. Into something that then becomes workable.
Okay.
For the township to take action on, and right now, I don't see that happening whatsoever.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well,
So are there some specific actionable things that I keep hearing, specific actionable things? Again, what would that be beyond recommending that there is an ongoing review of zoning? What would that look like in this document?
Maureen, I'm hearing from Alice that if we provide some ranges of low, medium, and higher density within there, that gives some parameters to the trustees.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing, the conversation.
Alice, is that fair? Is that what you're recommending, that we have?
Yes, I do recommend, because we all have our own opinions of what are each of those, that we need to have set figures.
Yeah.
And that needs to be established by this group, what we think from input from residents. Is that what we're saying?
I think so.
Because, yeah.
And I think we need, yes, we do not have the residents in enough force here.
No.
And we definitely need to find other ways. And I know we get into more comments further on other ways to draw them in and get them talking, even if it's not in person. But we'll stop there.
Here's one of my concerns. I feel like that we're hearing from the same group of residents repeatedly, the ones that are very interested, but we're not, I don't think, getting representation from all ages, and all age groups, and all types of people who live in the township. And that concerns me, that we're listening, and I guess we're listening to the voices that are the loudest and most frequent, and not maybe necessarily the voices of everybody.
That is true. Very
Yeah. The comprehensive guide, the comprehensive plan that was put together, I think it was published in 2021, had a very nice survey of residents, but it didn't have a very good feedback either. And from the number of people, it was very low feedback. Again, you get maybe 5 or 10% of the community engaging.
Marina, be a miracle.
Yes,
Because-
I know. And so I guess just to wrap up, I don't need to keep talking because I can hardly talk, but then the action would be that we would define the densities to give better guidance. And these are they would have to be high level because they would not be enforceable. They're not zoning, right? They're just more, and that the land use, are we tying that to the land use map? Or are we more tying it to the zoning overlays? Where do we think that needs to go? Or is it just verbal?
It would be tied to the future land use map.
That's what I would think too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom, Jeff, do you guys have any comments?
Yeah, so I agree. I mean, I wrote down some notes as I was talking, and I agree with, that was one of my things, a definition of words. When we're talking about appropriate, moderate, and what those words mean to the residents as opposed to what it means to somebody else, right? So, and most of the people that I've talked to, that 12 units to an acre is not appropriate in any portion of the township, but there is a balance to the no change people versus the logic of we need to make the township fiscally responsible and balance the budget. So, and make sure that we're profitable in a way that the township can live properly. So there's a balance to that, but yet we need to know what appropriate and moderate and what those words mean. And that if you're talking 12 units to an acre, what does 12 units to an acre look like? And what does 6 units to an acre look like? So that when you say those words, or when you use those words, what are those images look like? And so I've pulled those up and I've looked at them, or I guess if you think about your lot or whatever, however many acres you have, and if you put that many houses on your chunk of land, does that seem like that's something that you would like to look at? So I think it's very important that we put a visual with what density means, so that people are,
Sure.
I mean, obviously we understand what the words that we've been, the opinions of the people of the township that we've listened to this point, or that we've heard from, that there's not a whole lot of people that are thinking, Lord, of 12 units to an acre is anything that's appropriate. 6 units to an acre is quite a bit, but I think that if it's done properly, there might be an area in which 6 units to an acre might be an acceptable level in which somebody could agree with. I would say that majority of people, if you just walked up to them and asked them and showed them pictures, they wouldn't like that either.
That's right.
But there is a balance to tax dollars and all the things that John, because I think that the comments that were in his document are very true. There's nothing wrong with what he said. But is it appropriate for Harlan Township? So yeah, I definition of words, very important.
Okay.
And then attaching some kind of an image
Mhm.
to what a density looks like so that people can bring the two thoughts
Yeah.
together.
Jeff, I agree. I'm very visual. And I think if we looked at the Russ Miller sketch for development as a group, that could give us some ideas as it's 11 units per acre. Of this is what a development could look like in our township. And do we see it's appropriate with, 3-story apartment buildings and 2-story condominiums, et cetera? So I think having a visual and talking that through, having something, or any development, and looking at something that is of different densities could give us a better idea as we firm up those numbers.
Do you have anything to add?
I agree 100%. We need to have pictures of what that looks like.
Okay, we can do that. So Chris, we've spent the first 35 minutes talking about appropriate versus minimal density. But it was going to be the hot
Caught
topic.
the back end of it. I don't
So-
disagree with
Yeah.
the, and again, pictures tell 1,000 words,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, yeah, no, I agree with using the pictures to represent, what people will see out the window.
Yeah, okay. All right, so what I'm taking away from this, and any of the committee members can chime in if I'm wrong. We're gonna work on defining the different types of parameters of the different types of density, low, medium, high. I don't like using the word high. I think we need to maybe wordsmith that, but low, medium, and something. And then taking those and putting definitions to those words and adding images so people can understand what those densities look like. Those are nice for us to have on hand as well.
I want to make sure that we continue to use those words. We don't get away from them, so essentially you establish what moderate or low or whatever means, and then you start using appropriate,
Yep.
So, if you define a word, then we continue to use that word so that we don't get away from what that means.
Yep.
Just because one word's more comfortable than another.
Okay.
Because it is very comfortable to use appropriate, so.
Yep.
Because it's a gray word, so.
Well, I think the other thing about appropriate, and the only thing I'm going to say there is that there are densities that are appropriate in parts of the township that wouldn't be appropriate in other parts of the township. And so that's what you get with appropriate. It allows you to select the appropriate density, the one that works for that part of the township. So that's my only way in on the appropriate. I think it gives you some. It's not gray. It allows flexibility for specific areas, I guess. So then the other thing I would say too, Holly, is as we look for visuals, density can look different if it's done well or done poorly. And so
Yes.
we'll really want to make sure that we pick good examples and maybe even show what not to build so that we have some, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, what not to wear, what not to build, or what not to eat, those things with the X on it, that we don't want this is not what we want. And that, I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
In response to that appropriate, I understand what you're saying when you say appropriate for one area versus another, but in what we're doing as a strategic plan, I think that we need to pick those areas or find those areas that might be outside of what we're supposed to be doing. Maybe that's zoning, but those areas should be identified and said to whether that's low or moderate, not appropriate.
Yes, I don't disagree with that.
If we
I'm
say
in,
it's appropriate for this area, then we have to say that what's appropriate, whether it's.
yeah, so I in complete and violent agreement with that.
All
My
right.
only thing is that we can't say minimal density any more than we can say appropriate. We need to
No.
have definitions. So I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One thing,
thanks.
maybe that, is it the charter of this group to take that step, or to say a next step for the township would be to identify areas, so as opposed to you being encumbered with that at this point.
Yeah.
That's the next step in the process.
No, I
Yes.
agree. I agree. That might be that's probably beyond this group.
So you're saying, so you would say, hey, our suggestion is, here's the
Establish those
definitions.
things
Where do you think this is appropriate?
and establish what those
Sure.
words, establish what those words mean and
Yes.
then pin it to a further study, further whatever
Yeah.
that these are the areas that are pointed out to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I agree.
Study. All right. All right, let's go on to the next item. Thank you. That was good. I think that one's a huge one that we just got through, so appreciate the conversation. All right, under priority area, this was at the boards at the community meeting. Under intentional growth and development, there was a post-it note comment that said something about, I'm worried about development and light pollution. Can we have regulations about that? We regulate setbacks and tree lines, etc. So we do have some lighting regulations in the overlay districts as far as cutoff. Everything has to be pointed down. And then I believe that there are maximum foot candle requirements at the property lines, so that it's not spilling over to the adjacent lands. That's only in the overlay districts. Do we want to add some kind of recommendation into this, that should be a general lighting standard in the zoning code that applies to all development within the township?
That's my question.
Absolutely.
What's standard and customary?
To have it apply to all of it. And downlighting is standard and customary. Almost everybody's going to build with that now, because
Right.
that's what everybody requires.
Yes, we should have something that speaks to zoning, lighting, even in current zoning.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Are we saying we don't have it today?
I don't believe that the township has a general lighting standard.
Yeah, this is Alice. I looked at Orange Township's comprehensive plan or zoning resolution, and they have it all over the place. And as we develop, and we all know we will develop, lighting and noise pollution is going to become a much bigger deal.
Okay, so I'm hearing a resounding yes. Let's put that in.
Yep.
As a recommendation. Okay. So the next comments we've addressed, so I'm going to skip down to the next circled comment. There was a comment under distinct, connected, and rooted in the land. A post-it note that says research large lot developers. I actually talked to that person and saw them write that down. So I know what they were thinking when they wrote it down, because I talked to them. So they were saying that there has to still be large landowners out there or developers that want to build on large lots, 2 acres, 5 acres, and build the roads and the ditch sections instead of small lots, and utilizing central water and sewer. I was explaining to him, like, down in Fairfield County, years ago, we did have several developers that did build those kinds of subdivisions. They're down to about 1 in Fairfield County now. I'm not as familiar with them in Delaware County, or, you're more familiar with Delaware County. Do you have any that you know of?
Not to that extreme,
Not to that.
Street.
Yeah.
mm-mm.
So, in my opinion, I just think that if they're gonna build on large lots, they're probably gonna build on frontage lots.
Mhm.
They're not gonna
Yes.
put roads in. It's just not economically feasible anymore to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, we talked to one that does work in Lincoln County in Central Ohio, and it sounds like they do one once every few years, maybe.
Yeah.
So
And it's custom homes.
custom homes.
So I guess I'm missing, what's the ask of the committee or the strategic plan?
So I think they're asking us to put a recommendation into the strategic plan that we target large lot developers and reach out to them and ask them if they're willing to come and build in Harlan
I
Township.
guess, sorry, for what purpose?
I know,
I don't understand.
I'm not
I'm
understanding.
not disagreeing with
Yeah.
it, I'm just saying, I don't know how the strategic plan can recommend researching large lot
Yeah.
developers without a set purpose and scale and
Yeah.
scope.
Yep.
Mm.
Don't disagree with you.
Is there an area of the township that we believe will be developed in that manner? So for example, the northwest quadrant.
Northwest under the existing overlay.
Just kind of think, yeah, it's probably gonna be custom built homes on large lots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe a recommendation along the lines of, in that area, that the township reaches out to custom home builders to learn and understand what they need to be successful in that arena.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still.
I mean, it's just a recommendation from a
From a
resident
resident.
as
Yep.
saying
So-
what they would like.
You don't have to include it. We're here as a steering committee. You're here
No,
as a steering committee to say, do we want to put that in there or not?
I want to be responsive. I'm still just
Yeah.
trying to connect the dot of the how, right? And so. As it, and maybe I'm putting the word, if we replace the word research. And is the Post-it note supposed to say recruit large lot developers? Is that a
I think
better
that's
word?
Probably a better word.
And so, or target?
Target.
Target would be better.
So the ask would be that we, the township, would target large lot developers for residential development, for commercial development, for, I mean,
When I was talking to the person, it was residential development.
I think they were wanting.
and we're wanting communities, we're wanting,
I don't know. I
and
didn't.
I'm sorry, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm just trying, I want to be responsive to the
Yeah.
comment and.
Yeah,
and
I don't
thankful
even
for
know who the
feedback.
person was to like go and find them and ask them for more information.
So they don't want neighborhoods.
I think what they
want
get.
large lots, so that, so is the word to encourage or enable. Folks who want
Large,
large lots,
continue to have 5 lot.
yeah,
Developments.
we've got a whole
5
part
acre
of our
lot.
township, we envision this happening, we want to encourage it to happen.
see,
We
that's
want to
starting to
provide
make-
zoning for it to happen.
All right, making a little more sense to me. now.
I think
But I-
that these people are taking a worry in their head that they're gonna have a MI development of a whole bunch of houses
Yeah,
crammed
yeah,
together in a
That's
subdivision.
Exactly right.
And they want it to be the other kind of development
Yeah.
where it's big, large.
I got it now.
Yes.
And so
Took me a
in
while
their
to get
head,
that. Got it.
that was their fix.
Yeah.
That was their fix of how to do it. Now, whether that is something that requires to be put into a strategic plan, or whether that's just something that you say, got it, understand.
Could we, in the back part of the strategic plan where we've got the actions, where we've got the, the to-do lists. I mean, could we create another line item of, and maybe it is research, now that I understand it a little better, research and recruit large lot developers for residential, I mean, like,
Yeah.
define this thing
Yes.
a little better?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But not put it in the plan.
Is that something you really wanna recommend?
I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
Who's gonna think about it, guys and gals?
Yeah.
Who's gonna do that? Who's gonna take that on? I mean, you can put it in there, but it's never gonna get acted on.
Well, I mean, if you want it, I mean, it
Like
just
that.
depends on what you're shooting for. If you if you're just like anything else, when you're talking about development of land, you have all of these things where you're trying to attract certain businesses, or trying to attract certain types of development. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter where, it's just a different location
Right.
for a different application.
So you could go to Manelli and Hughes and say, hey, we've got 100 acres here. We really envision it as executive homes. And we want everybody on a 5-acre lot.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to build it?
That would make sense, yeah.
But
you gotta get
Make money.
That has to be set up
Right.
before.
But you're gonna have all these
3-acre lot, yeah.
come out and, you know.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I'm saying there's from a development
And
standpoint.
that's
not
what I'm
money.
saying. That used to be a very prominent
Right.
market, and it's not there now because of the economics.
And that's right now. I mean, the strategic plan has a shelf life of.
Right.
This is Alice. I think we need to consider, when I first read it, I thought it said, should we reach out to large lot owners? I totally misread it. It was actually developers. And I think we need to be careful that it's not seen as inappropriate. If all of a sudden Romanelli and Hughes is doing every development in Harlem Township, is that going to be seen as that something, is not untoward, though probably wouldn't be, being done? Now, of course, yes, if we put out there the standards we want any builder to do, then we're not looking like we're picking favorites. So
I think that was
I think that's a fine line that has to be
Yeah. So Alice says,
navigated.
sorry, Alice.
Okay.
As a planner, we are encouraged to reach out to the stakeholders, including developers, not to pick and choose certain ones and not to target just one, but to reach out and understand everybody's input, including developers, to understand, because you don't want to create a plan that doesn't make sense in the market. That's just not gonna work, so.
Well, maybe you need maybe a statement along the lines earlier on as part of your foundational piece. Is the township is open to all forms of development in the township and continues to be interested for folks that want to take larger parcels and develop them, integrating in the environmental concerns, the tree stands and all the rest, to continue to develop large parcel lots.
Yeah.
Okay. You agree with that, Tom?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you just have to tell them, if you're gonna build here, these are the rules you have to play by.
Mhm.
And if they don't wanna do it, they can hide them.
Bill.
That's what you have to do.
All right, any other comments on that? I'm hearing basically put in a broader comment. Does everybody agree with that? A broader comment on this? I heard two things. I heard non-steering committee members say broad comment. I heard steering committee members say, let's add it as a recommendation.
Comments.
I don't think it's terrible to put a line item in there to establish some sort of relationship with large lot developers so that you understand how we can set up the township to be working with them or something. I'm not exactly sure what the words, but I don't think it's a terrible thing to put in the recommendations at the long-term, medium-term stuff at the end of the document.
Right, as long as we don't name specific
Exactly.
developers.
We wouldn't.
We wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the strategic plan. So in the highlighted blue section, which maybe the current version doesn't have anymore, create a vibrant, close-knit community with a strong sense of place, protecting its rural feel while accommodating thoughtful, well-placed development. Concentrate higher densities in key locations to preserve existing woodlands and critical natural resources. Link preserved open spaces with walking paths and provide welcoming community gathering areas that strengthen the connections among residents and highlight the community's unique character. I think in there you could probably add a comment that says, you know, like in here, we're saying concentrate higher densities in key locations. Could also say same thing relating to
Large
large lot. Yeah.
residential development.
Accented by.
Yeah,
Yeah, something I think you could easily address it in there and move on.
Yeah.
Dolly, do you have the location in the plan that Chris just referenced?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that, all right,
Perfect.
cool. Does everybody agree from the committee?
Sounds good.
All right, very good. Let's move on to the next item, which is on the future land use map. There was a post-it note that says move the business park line north to avoid Fancher homes or Fancher Road homes. Molly, can you share the future land use map on here?
Yes, give me one moment.
I have to give you permission to. You should be able to share once you get that up.
Okay.
While she's getting it up, I've taken a look at it. What I think it is the business park line comes down and abuts the back of the Fancher Road home. It goes down to the Fancher Road, and they just want us to bump it up to the back of those lots, I believe. But she'll bring it up and we'll double check. While she's doing that, we can go on to the next one and come back to that. We get to skip a lot. All right, here we go. Use a steering committee or other similar forum for different demographics. We just talked about this.
We lost your vision on the screens with the.
Oh, she's
Sorry.
back up now. Okay.
Yep.
Let's go back to that comment then.
I'll zoom in a little to the area that they're referencing. Maybe that's a bit too zoomed. Okay.
That's good.
Yep.
Yep. So, I believe they just want us to come back to that back line of the lots that front on Fancher Road.
On the north side of the road.
Yep.
yeah. I mean, it's fine.
300 feet, or wasn't there, didn't we add some goofy number of feet in
Oh.
addition to the property lines?
That was before, that was the very first draft, that went away.
Oh, there you go, gotta catch up. All right.
Yeah.
got it.
This area here, which is the tannish color, represents 300 acres, which was about what Dana McDaniel was recommending as far as acres for a
Okay.
business park. But you know, having said that, with those smaller houses already there are businesses through there too, but there are houses. Does it make more sense to push it back and then push it up further north to get your 300 acres? Or just not have it be 300 acres?
I don't know, that 300 was just an arbitrary number, really, essentially. I mean, it was a number that seemed to work, and it's a percentage of the township. And in the first comment, there was something about 2 of the 300 acre areas. And that was something that I got a lot of comments about to me, was saying that they did, one's enough, you know, but it all comes down to what land and who owns what land and, you know, what the lots are. So it's really kind of arbitrary. You know, that line comes down to Fancher Road. That's everybody's individual homes on Fancher Road. Most of the property north of that are large farmland parcels. Most of it, not all of it. And most of those people have already been in conversation. So that's not anything that, you know, everybody already knows, but.
Now, what is if I can ask, the dotted line which says it's the conceptual road connection or realignment? What,
Just a generic line to represent that there needs to be connectivity between 605 and Harlem Road, and east-west connectivity. It's not, doesn't mean it needs to be exactly where that dash line is, it's just representing a general connection that is needed.
is it a extension of Robbins Road or,
Not necessarily, no.
okay,
Have to
So
be.
Alice, that one of the things that when we were doing that, the road, the topography, we're on Fancher Road right in there is
uh-huh,
not gonna, because of the cemetery being on both sides of the road and it's on a hill, you
uh,
have really bad sight lines. And so
okay,
the recommendation was to have another connection between 605 and Harlem Road so that you don't have traffic on Fancher Road. You don't have increased traffic on Fancher Road where you can't widen it
what
and it
if,
has poor visibility. That's what that line was for.
okay, thank you for the explanation. What if that business area was simply moved to north of the dotted line?
That would be going through the middle of parcels, so I would recommend that we bring it back down to that. Just south of that dotted line to that parcel line where Molly's pointing right now, if we do that.
Okay, so the three small lots that are just south of the dotted line, those are not current residences?
I don't believe so. I have to go on the aerial and look.
I'll look quickly and see if I can find out.
So I mean, it makes more sense to me instead of going through the middle of people's lots to go in the line of lots.
I mean, it makes sense, and like we're kind of getting bogged down in the fact of something that we're, again, as a strategic planning committee, and really doing in the sense of zoning, establishing that line. That line is kind of a, you know, a fuzzy edged line to start with.
It's a
just
bubble.
because-
It's a bubble.
It's a bubble. It's not really a line. So if it makes it more comfortable for people to look at it and feel more comfortable with that line, then I think that that's a wise thing to do.
I second that.
Very good.
Second that.
All right.
All those things can be changed with negotiation with whoever starts it, so it doesn't matter.
That's true too. That's right.
We are gonna move the line. All right, thank you, Molly. for sharing.
Did we find out where those residences are those?
There is one house on one of those 3 lots, but the other 2 are vacant. Or it may be being used for agriculture. I can't really tell from the aerial.
Okay, so what, I didn't hear, what was the idea to do as far as moving the industrial line up?
To move it up to the back of the lot, the rear lot lines of the lots facing Fancher Road, which would be that lot line Molly was pointing at. When you were talking, just south of the dotted line.
Okay, so then one residence would be affected.
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Molly. Going on, use a steering committee or other similar forum for different demographics, resident liaison interest groups to help advise trustees on specific areas. The plan currently recommends creating open space working group and the distinct, connected and rooted in the land implementation matrix on page 72, but it does not cover other resident liaison groups. No changes made yet, discussion for the committee. So we have one that we've identified. Are there others that the committee would like us to add as far as liaisons and interest groups?
The more people we can get involved, the better.
Yeah, I think
Doesn't
that's to be
matter.
honest. I think this might be my comment.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call yourself or how you want to put the group
Right.
together.
Get more residents
If
involved.
there's more people that are willing to speak, then that's what we want, so.
In the past, we talked about the quadrants of communication of these, northeast might not be as interested in what's going on in southwest type thing, so maybe
Do we have to name them?
not necessarily.
I don't think,
I think it would help to name them. This is Alice. I think if the township were to help setting up something like Reddit groups that were focused on, the under 35 or under 40, the Southwest area, the Northeast area, my age group, the oldies but goodies, those of us who have been here for 30 plus years and we like the way things are, though we know things are going to change. If a lot of people today are focused on chat groups, texting, and not being in person, and to have conversation, the more we can facilitate having these discussion groups, the more we will have people becoming involved in the township. And to me, that is really, really important. If we want the younger folks involved, we need to talk their language.
yeah, I like that. I think, changing the recommendation to say chat groups or online, groups, not using the word Reddit, but keeping it general. I think that's an excellent recommendation. What do you guys think?
So are we talking about changing the recommendation to say develop groups?
I'm
Is
here
that-
to develop groups and online chat.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So instead of it being just specifically an open space working group, we would develop appropriate groups. I use the word appropriate. We would use groups.
Named groups.
Named groups, specific. Actually, I like this. Help advise. Where is it? Use a steering. Like basically, you could almost use this comment to name some of the options for the groups,
Right.
and put that in there. Specific group. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I agree, like, just leave it, the recommendation broad, but then say, for example, and then. list-
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes, and we as township help facilitate if we set up these chat groups,
Yep.
under 35, oldies but goodies, Southwest Corner, then people will be able to go to those and have discussions with their neighbors or people of like amounts. So, Italian, if we had a high Italian American in this township, then anything to get the ball rolling and get people talking to each other.
Yep, makes sense.
So long as we don't create factions.
Yeah.
We're enclaves.
Right.
I was just thinking of, we get too tribal. We don't want to do that either. We don't want to be divisive. We want to be inclusive. So
Maybe we built those words in, Murray, making sure
yeah.
it's remaining inclusive of our community.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on, would like to see the cost of sewers and what is the economic development that is needed to pay for these extension sewers, residential versus industrial? This has no changes, discussion with the committee. I will say from my perspective that, Dana has provided those detailed spreadsheets about how the TIFs and the JEDs and all the different revenue sources will help generate revenue and give specific numbers to those, and we have the cost of the sewers from the sewer district. So I don't believe those are pieces that we put into the plan. This is not that kind of plan, but that information is available, and maybe we can add a line saying that information is available.
Well, it's variable too.
Variable changes,
Yeah,
right?
different places.
I mean, just depending on when you want that information and when you print the document, I mean, I think, yeah, I agree with you. Available upon request.
I don't even know if we need to put that. I think maybe that's just an area that we need to communicate that because it's highly we could say something like because those costs are highly variable, you know, we're not going to speak to them specifically here or something. I don't even
Do we have to respond to it?
Mm.
know.
Next.
But we do want to make sure that we're not ignoring comments.
No, I
and
get
maybe-
it.
yeah.
But if it comes up, we could just say, we
Yeah.
can easily respond that, you know, given the volatility of the numbers and the costs and it's
not really intended for this.
it's the wrong
It's
wrong
the
form.
And if it's brought up to any of you, you can point them to the video of this conversation to say we did respond, we reviewed
Sure,
this
yeah,
and this
yeah.
is our response. So.
Yeah.
Fine.
Good
All
stuff.
right. How does the income tax from a JED work into paying for the infrastructure? It's the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same response to that, okay.
But this is Alice, so I have to say the more we develop, the more we say that the tax base, we need to increase our tax base to pay for the cost of government in the township, a new township hall, etc., the more that we need to be able to show simple line items to the residents of what the costs are like.
Yeah.
What is the income of the township today? What is the outgoing amount? What is just a ballpark? And I think it was there at some point. What would microtunneling, just ballpark, cost to 605 from Harlem? What does traditional sewage digging of a line cost? I think that we need to be responsive because residents are going to want to know more and more why we need the tax base, why, who's going to pay for the sewers, et cetera.
I don't disagree that we need to be transparent on what those costs are. I just believe it's a different location. I don't believe it's this document it goes into.
So should it be on maybe posted on the Harlem Township site? And
Maybe.
So you'll find, Alice, particularly with the sewer, that almost monthly the trustees will provide a sewer update. And we'll say microtunneling is $6,900 per foot. And it's gonna cost you 20 million to get to here, 30, 60, 80 to 605. And so that information and those particulars are provided. People would just have to look at the township meetings or minutes to find answers to some of those questions.
okay,
It doesn't talk about who's gonna pay for it,
Right,
because there's no decision
that's correct.
that the township's gonna pay a nickel.
That's right.
right. Well, just going to the quick, easy answers and young people today and not having time. I mean, maybe that could be like, interesting note on the webpage. This is bring it out. So somebody goes to the webpage, oh, did you know the sewer is going to cost this much? Because there was a little pop-up note on the webpage and we don't know who's paying for it yet. Just making information easier to obtain so people understand it is there to be seen and we're going to help you. So the question that keeps coming up is you don't have to dig for it. We're going to make it easier for you to find.
Frequently asked questions tab on the website.
Yeah,
There you go.
excellent.
Got it. Gonna add a recommendation for adding a frequently asked questions tab on the website. Awesome. Everybody agree with that?
Or that's focused on development. It's not just a general FAQ, it's a.
Yeah, it could be either or, yeah. Yeah, you could have under different, yeah, whatever. It could be
And-
big if you had it up for everything.
And who would be responsible for that? I always look to who would be responsible for maintaining that.
I would say it would be the administrative assistant.
That's what I would think too. And I just think that, you know, as the trustees that are her boss, we don't have an administrator, right? So would that be something that you would want to add to Ashley's?
So yeah, in the action items, we would list administrative assistant and the trustees as the responsible parties, because if
Yeah.
that space was vacant, the trustees would be responsible for saying who needs to do that.
Okay,
They can also say no.
that's true.
Alright. Moving right along. Let's ensure the residents understand the reasons the township is pursuing this strategic plan. Suggestion that the executive summary is sent via mass email, we did that. Right? That was supposed to be done.
It's done.
That was done. That's why there's an X on
Right.
that circle.
Alright, next one is require buffer zones between residential developments and agricultural areas to minimize conflicts and maintain the visual separation of rural landscape. So we do have buffers,
Isn't that in the zoning?
it's in the overlays, correct, and it's
Overlay thing.
200 feet. If there's an existing house, the buffer has to be at least 200 feet from that house. If there's no existing house, they don't have to build the buffer because they're building against that's there today.
200 feet from the house or 200 feet from the property?
200 feet from the house, so if the house is 100 to more than 200 feet away, it doesn't require the buffer. If it's 100 feet away, then you have to go to 100-foot buffer on the development side.
Okay.
Is that something that the group thinks needs to be changed? This group can make recommendations for revisiting the overlay to change that. Not hearing anything.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that there's really, I mean,
I would probably prefer 200 feet from the property line instead of the house. Personally, on my property, that would mean they could go right up to my property line.
Because your house is more than 200 feet from your property line?
That's correct.
well, it doesn't mean that they would build right to your property line. That means that they
I
would,
just wouldn't have a buffer zone.
they wouldn't have a buffer at your property line, yeah,
Well, there's still setbacks too.
yeah,
Setbacks, the regular setbacks, that's correct.
right. The setback off the property line for construction is.
Yeah, but
different.
the strategic plan isn't about me.
Right, no,
I'm just saying, for me personally, that's.
but just like we were
Makes me
talking
think.
about it, if you don't put it to a visual in your head as to like your property or
Yep.
what it's gonna look like, then you don't understand what. Somebody else is gonna be envision at their house also, so it's the same thing.
For writing the overlay, if we made it 200 in all cases and you had a 200-foot front setback too, it was making land undevelopable. So we tried to create some flexibility in the rear. Sides.
And I think where we landed on that was try to err towards the longer away and then let them battle for,
Exemption or a.
you know, let them battle to
Variance.
change it for a
With
variant,
variance
and that would make it,
possible.
that would make it better.
Yep, I
So-
remember that conversation.
So, not that it can't be done, so.
I think we're all good on that one, right? There's
Yeah.
really,
All right, implement lighting regulations, we just talked about that, so we're good on that. Strengthen tree preservation requirements, especially for mature tree stands, and incentivize reforestation efforts on underutilized land. I personally like that idea. The tree, I will tell you.
Where would that be enforced?
That was what I was getting ready to say, tree preservation would be hard to enforce. the reforestation, I'm seeing that happen. We're seeing that happen in other places with regulations. Mostly in the Darby watershed, and there's a lot of EPA works down in that area, so they're getting it. But it is something that the custom home builders have been doing.
So, but again, where would that,
Where, yeah,
where would it reside and how would it be enforced?
the enforcement on the would be difficult.
For preservation,
Well,
but for preservation, right? But the zoning requires plantings,
But not reforestation planting.
right? This is one that,
Only.
So is that just a recommendation to the zoning
Well,
committee?
we're asking if we want to put a recommendation in the strategic plan to further the review the overlays to include something along these lines. That's what that comment's asking, basically, I think.
Okay.
is it specific to overlays? Because I think,
No, it's not actually.
yeah, so because, I guess this is one where I feel strongly because that is really what keeps the rural, like what makes the township look beautiful. And when you drive around other places, and we've seen that like in some of the examples that you gave of setbacks, when they're planted with trees versus just big flat open field, they have much more aesthetic appeal, right? So I don't know how you do it, but the reforestation, it could be incentivize that somehow.
There's a development that Del Webb has done in Jerome Township. It's not
Mhm.
done yet, but it's in the process. And they have done reforestation, and I attended a session on it at a planning conference. And they talked about the process they went through to reforest the area. So I think we could point to that in the plan as a case study that could be utilized when implementing this down the road.
More trees, the better.
That's right.
Yeah, this is Allison. I just want to say reforestation is great. We have some native trees we may love or not. I have an enormous cottonwood behind my chicken coop, and it's probably been there 100 years. If there's any way, and I don't know the answer right now, that we can continue to identify, and I think some people have, the old trees, the Osage orange trees we have. There are some really great trees that are not going to be replanted if we cut those down. And if there's anything we can do to preserve those old trees in any developments coming in, we should do our darndest, because we know it's going to be many years before new trees give the same look that we enjoy today. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Anything else on this?
Well, what's
So
the
what's the
to-do?
The
action?
to do, I think, is to add in a stronger recommendation that this reforestation be added into the zoning code for everything, not just overlays. And that would point to that Del Webb case study as an example of how to do it. Maintain and enhance rural road standards, avoiding urban style infrastructure that could detract from the township's rural feel. We did not make changes to this. We wanted to have a conversation with you.
Not sure what it means.
This is kind of difficult because the road standards are determined by the Delaware County subdivision regulations.
Yeah.
So
Delaware County
subdivision regulations. Yeah.
Okay.
And oh god.
Yeah, the state and the county. There's not a whole lot of roads that we have control over.
Well, even the
So
township.
what's it asking for though? What's it?
I think if I'm reading it correctly, that it's wanting ditch style. Roads, not curbs and gutter. That's way
Yeah.
rural versus
Yeah.
urban.
Okay.
But that's all gonna be dictated by the county standards.
So you cannot have township standards that would require curb and gutter.
Most likely, the county standards are gonna require curb and gutter, but makes it sound like, this comment makes it sound like they want to not have the curb and gutter and have ditch sections. But I think the county's regulations are gonna dictate curb and gutter.
They're gonna control the rainwater.
I know they're gonna control it, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be curb and gutter. And even the roads that are township maintained, they still go through the county to get approved, developed, and then they get turned over to the township for maintenance purposes.
Would home rule affect that at all?
It doesn't, nope. There's a specific line in the home rule legislation that says subdivision regulations stay at the county.
Supersede, okay.
Yeah.
Then we can't do anything about this, really.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, are we good to go on?
move on.
All right, limit commercial development to specific designated areas to ensure that they do not encroach on rural landscapes. I think we have to,
I feel like we've had to address that already, right?
yeah, I feel like we've addressed it too. Does anybody feel like we have not addressed this comment?
We have addressed. it.
Okay, I'm gonna move on then. Require the use of conservation overlays in areas, there have already been significant amount of housing developments on large individual lots along existing roadways. Require the use of conservation overlays in areas where there has already been a significant amount of housing development. I don't know, does anybody know?
Are they trying to reapply zoning?
I don't know.
That's what it looks like on the
Say
face of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's legal, but once somebody's property, they purchased the property and they've developed the
Now you're
land.
gonna come back.
Now you're gonna come back and tell them they have to change the way they have their land located.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that you have that control.
We don't, I wasn't even understanding what it was saying, so.
Well, I might be misunderstanding.
I read it
So,
like you read it. I'm like, I don't think you
Yeah,
can do
I
that.
think it's.
I think if I bought a piece of land and then you came in later and told me I needed to change it because we changed our mind, then. Yeah,
Moving on, identify and protect historical structures, barns, accessory buildings and houses and landscapes that contribute to the township's rural character. Again, the overlay district does have language in there talking about cultural and historical structures being retained, and
Is it strong enough?
I think as strong as a township can be. I mean, there
But
are.
it doesn't apply to any of the existing zoning, right? Is that something that we want to broaden out?
But on existing zoning. That's gonna be your standard zoning districts, you can't.
You can't do it.
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, I mean, even
Okay.
as structures though, isn't that something that, so like. Let's say we have a farm in Kentucky and the barns are historical barns because they're beyond a certain age.
Yeah.
And so therefore the state wanted to widen the road and change the road, but they could not. They had to go around the barns because these were historical barns. Do we want to establish? I mean, that would be kind of a committee thing that where you would establish and you go through the township and you find the things that are historical to the township and create that and put that in the historical register.
so that's what I was gonna say, like, you can't do, like, you wouldn't have like a township historical. That you could, but you as a township could identify historical things and then try to take that to the registry. But it would be at the registry level.
Okay.
And I think the property owner would have to be part of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. They'd have to want that, yes. Yeah,
But is that
because
something
put
we would
that-
wanna-
We put our barns on as the historical register,
Yeah.
but we did that so that they couldn't move they couldn't take the barns
Yeah.
for the new road, so. But that was a way of controlling development, they had to change the road location because of historical buildings. So if people want to preserve their land, they put their house on or barns on historical register if it fits the requirements. So
Maureen, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna ask if we wanted to actually make that as a recommendation as somewhere distinct, connected, and rooted in the land, or somewhere like that, where we had something where we recommended that there was a task force that helps identify significant structures and works to get them on the historical registry for the state of Ohio. It doesn't really always protect, but
No, I think we definitely need to address it because there are many historical structures within our township. And even though we can't control what landowners who will sell their property, what will happen to those, or what they will do currently with those properties, we can at least identify that it's important to the township and to its statement of being rooted in the land and caring for the land and what we have now.
But a property owner has to see benefit in that.
sure.
And you're right, what you did is a protective defensive measure because of other things that could encroach. But it's also a real pain in the neck. It devalues the property when they go to sell it, because once that's in place, it's very hard to get it lifted. And it controls that what you can do and use with that property, how you can use that building. If you want to make modifications to it, you'll get more help than you can imagine from all the cities and whatever around who say you can't do that. So the homeowner's gotta, I mean, we could certainly go out and point out some key historical buildings
Sure.
for consideration by the homeowner.
yeah, that's what my recommendation was,
But
to help the homeowners.
not all a panacea, I guarantee you.
Oh, no, I agree with you. The homeowner has to agree with it.
Yeah,
But I think that as homeowners that have some of these historical items, some of them would
they
appreciate.
might wanna do that.
They would
We have a
appreciate.
couple that are
And it shows that the township is committed to preserving.
Okay, so add a recommendation that there's a task force to identify these, but then also make sure it's by consideration by the homeowner.
And actually helps the homeowner, helps them, gives them a resource for getting those on the historical register.
Maybe you could hold a workshop.
Yeah.
That's a workshop and invite people who might have historical buildings to attend a workshop to learn what's entails to do that and what are the upsides and the downsides, just an education program.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
sounds like a good one for you, Steve.
Be all over that, Maureen.
So, but I want to make sure, did you say that we're recommending to create a task force to do this?
yes. To identify historical structures. And then that would be for consideration for the homeowner to put it on the historic registry and then hold workshops to educate homeowners on the pros and the cons to putting something on the registry.
Task force, that sounds like a pretty potent group.
We're-
Working group.
Task force is fine. This isn't a hill to die on for me. I just wanted to make sure we're putting this in the strategic plan. Got it.
Okay, we can use different words.
Oh, it's
I'm not married to task force.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
with it. Maureen, it's not a big deal. Let's keep moving.
Next is, it's unclear whether the intent of references to PUD means a development plan written completely by the applicant, which is a B, or a variation of existing plan districts, which is an A. This should be clarified. We support referencing the existing plan districts since considerable time has been spent recently reviewing those. All three approaches to PUD section of the ORC, so the language needs to differentiate between them. So just to be clear, I think they mean B and C in this. B is a legislative type of PUD. So it's where the developer comes in and proposes its own development text and goes through a preliminary plan with the development text and rezones to PUD. And then after that gets approved, then they come back with a development plan in accordance with the approved zoning text. C is the overlay, which I think that's what they're trying to refer to in the plan districts, or the C, which is where the township has already done that legislative process and written that text. And the developer just comes in and pulls down that cloud and with a development plan. So do we want to, I think what we're trying to say in the plan is that we have Cs right now, but there might be particular locations where we would want these legislative PUDs, where the developer writes their own zoning text to get pockets of density where it makes sense. Is what the text of page 45 is trying to say.
This seems very technical.
Yeah.
Technical.
I'm kind of lost in it in the sense of like, if you say yes to one or the other, that might be saying yes to something that I don't agree with.
This strategic. I don't know, seems too technical for the strategic plan, but.
It's almost kind of like a zoning thing, and then
Yeah.
it's not really a strategic plan.
That's right.
Keep it as it is, but although I do think we talked about doing different types of PUDs.
Well, I think that there's a suggestion of using construction, using, tools to get to your the property that you want. But I don't think that we need to be the ones in the strategic plan needs to be the ones to say
How you administer it.
how you
Yeah.
administer
This
it.
is how you do it.
Right, that's not, I mean, tools can be used, was essentially
Here's your
strategic plan.
toolbox, right?
Since it was, this is Al, since it was a comment from someone in response to a steering meeting, can we table this? I would like to look more at the language, and can we discuss it more at our next meeting? Because I think it is very complicated language, and it would give us more time to look at this again and be able to really speak to what they were trying to convey.
My only point would be, and I hear you, Alice, the strategic plan is supposed to be much more of a high level. This is beyond the weeds as it relates to the blocking and tackling of execution. I would only comment, I mean, we can table it and we can talk to it another time, but I think this is too much in the minutia of execution, and the strategic plan still needs to stay at the 20,000 foot level.
And that could be the case, Chris, but it is so, I don't understand it enough to think it is correct to just not deal with it. I think I would like to look at the language more, and I will come prepared next time to discuss.
So I'm not clear on what they're referencing, because when I look at page 45 of the new one, I think we're talking about 46, and it's talking about PUDs and overlays. Is that where the section we're talking about on page 40?
The black is one version and the blue is another version, so yes, you're correct, it's probably a different.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so basically, I don't see anything wrong with that section. It's just, it's not super technical, so I don't know why we got super technical, I guess is my point.
Yeah, okay.
Because that area, I'm sorry.
No, it's good that we're not that technical in the plan, because we should not be.
And we shouldn't be, and that whole section just says there's different types of zoning. You could ways to get zoning changes, and there's PUDs and overlays, and we don't really need to get super technical about the machinations of how you do each one. understand why we're so technical.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be.
Do we know who made this
I-
comment to
I
talk to them again?
I can go back and look, Alice, I don't have it on the top of, it's right here, like I can get it fast, but I can look it up for you and to let you know.
Okay,
I will tell you, I did get several comments from Mike Kavler, so I'm going to guess this was probably on his list.
That's gotta be somebody in the zoning. committee.
Well, it's somebody who's citing the ORC, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but we'll look it up, but it sounds like we're not technical in the plan itself, and so we're okay, we're basically said what we said tonight. And then Alice, if you wanna do additional research, feel free to do that, but I think the plan's okay how it is right now.
I will do that anyway and bring it to the next meeting.
Yeah, I think this next one is gonna be technical here too. Townships, listing plan districts can be used to achieve flexibility. For what it's worth, a previous prosecutor advised the townships have adopted specific language in their resolutions, initiated, but we don't know where the current prosecutor stands. Again, I think this is too technical. We're just talking broadly about that we can use PUDs as tools.
That there's tools.
Yes.
There is a toolbox available to use. Yes.
Moving right along. What zoning and property rules has Jefferson Township used to keep their rural look and feel? It is an area that comes up as a desirable look. We didn't make changes. This is an area that we used for the setback example when the steering committee wanted to know what a 200-foot, if it would work or not. That's what Jefferson Township was utilizing, and we proved that it would work because Jefferson Township has. So actually when we wrote the overlay districts, we looked at Jefferson Township. So I feel like we've addressed this comment already.
605 Lake Clark State.
Yeah, all right. Oh, golf course, right?
Yeah, I just drove there the other day and it is very well done. Those roads don't look any different than they have in the last 20 years. They just look really good.
Right? Hearing nothing else on that. Put extra effort to protect cemeteries and any historical points of the township. I think we just covered that with the other
Talked about that.
comment. Yep. So we're good on that. Don't rush to finish the document as we are now getting feedback from the residents. The residents are now just wrapping their minds around this document and laying it out. So I think, we've been working on this last draft for a few months now. So it was, I think, late October that we were in front of the residents at the open house. So we've definitely given some time to react and adjust, and we are making adjustments to the document based upon the president. So does anybody disagree with that?
No, ma'am.
All right, I think that is it. That is it on this document. I will tell you that we have an Excel spreadsheet that you guys all were emailed back when I sent all of the comments out. And that was all of the Google forms that were completed by residents. There was nothing in them that were specific recommendations. They were broad comments that we've all sat here and talked about density and timing and all of that. So I don't feel the need to go through those one by one, but if you feel like I need to bring that document up and go through it, I'm happy to do that.
Holly, can you tell me, since I may have been gone when you sent it, just about around the time frame that you sent that?
It was probably in early November.
Okay.
But I can just resend it to you later tonight or in the morning.
If you want to, but I will look for it because I'm
Okay.
sure you sent it to me.
Marie?
I've got it right in front of me and it really, there was spot zoning, then there was economic development chapter that we already answered. And then there was, one about the economic development, and then there were changes to the overlays that got changed back. And then there's one that talked about the township having more than 50,000 residents if it gets a full build out. But I don't know that there's anything actionable for us.
Agree with that, Maureen. Does the steering committee have any other comments or discussion items they want to cover?
What's next steps look like?
No. So we will go back and revise the document based upon all of these comments. I believe we've already updated it based upon what we've heard prior to this, what we decided prior to this meeting. And I know that we updated Dana McDaniel's portion. He got updated items to us that we've put in. So we'll finish it up. Our next meeting is January 15th. 14th?
15 is Thursday, 14 is Wednesday.
I think it's
The
It says the
15th.
15th.
Yeah, 15th.
15th at 4:30 is what my calendar says.
Yep, 4:30, yeah.
If we got something to you by the end of the year, does that give you guys enough time to review by the 15th?
2 weeks?
You know?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
What I would like to do is have the expectation that if everything has been addressed that we talked about, that you would make a recommendation for the trustees to move forward.
What's the,
14th. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's fine. What's the conversation that we had post to John's reading where we had talked about the definition of the terms appropriate or moderate or going through and understanding what those look like? Is that anything that's going to have anything to do with the strategic plan that we're going to do anything with, or are we just going to make sure that those comments are, like that there's, or is that just something that we can address later? Or
So I think it's something that we put in here, that the steering committee would like that these parameters be identified.
Yes.
And then let that happen as a next step, but it's
Okay.
not something that we are.
to put into this? Okay. Right, all right. That's
They're
fine.
going to define low, medium, and high, whatever that third one is.
I want to know what those words are that we're going to use as a township, and then establish what low and medium and high mean and what those words look like.
Yeah.
And what the visual would be, to
Have an
maybe-
image that goes with it.
and this is Alice, just to say, have a visual which could be the Russ Miller sketch to talk about, this is what 11 units per acre can look like.
Yeah.
So my only comment to that, I think, Alice, is that I would hate to point out one particular property owner in the township. I'd rather use a generic example
Yes.
than point to someone who's going to be making a proposal to the township for us to consider.
I agree. I think you're putting the
Yeah,
township
stay in
in a good
general.
position, especially it hasn't even been adopted or.
Well, can we look at what a proposed one is and what has been approved by, because the Russ Miller is probably the biggest proposal this township has seen ever.
Alice, nothing's
So,
yet.
so could we see something that would be a generic as well as the Russ Miller? Because we need to see what could be coming in and what is being proposed for our township. I would like to look at both and say, oh, okay, this is what the ideal would be, and then this is something that we don't know is going to need changed, and this is where here, and here, it should be changed.
I just want to be very careful. I'll just opine on this, and I'm just a body of one. I just think I would recommend that we're careful not crafting our strategic plan or our steering committee efforts around a project, and we stay from the perspective of the whole township as a whole.
Yes.
I would lean much closer to renderings, drawings, etc., that are more general than specific on
Yes.
properties that
Yes.
on
Yes,
projects
yes,
that could come our way, because I think that probably then crosses our line as a purpose of a steering committee. I
But
think what you're
Chris, shouldn't
asking
we look
for,
at,
Alice, is we'll come out in the process of the requests for the development of that land.
Yeah, so the appropriate place for that to have for project specific things is really at zoning approvals. The steering committee really.
but Maureen, shouldn't we be looking at what are actual submitted development plans? If we just look at generic or pie in the sky.
I'm not saying we shouldn't look at it. What I'm saying is we should not be mentioning it or taking pictures of it or putting it in a strategic document.
No, not at all. I'm saying we need to come up with the numbers for low, moderate, and high density. But we also need to know what we're going to be expecting that's going to be proposed by developers for our township. And we have the first one from the Russ Miller development.
Right. And I think
we look at that.
If I could interrupt for a second, Russ Miller has not submitted anything to the township that I'm aware of. There has been a couple of meetings where things have been shown and taken back, but nothing has been submitted. So there is nothing to provide.
There's a sketch submitted to Delaware County Regional Planning Commission. They have the sketch of the proposal for the 694 units and 64 acres.
I don't want to be dismissive, Alice, but I really don't think that we should be discussing specific. We need to be more generic and higher level in this.
It's not to go in the document. It's simply to look at something that is proposed so that we as a township understand the types of developments that are going to be presented to us.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that we need to look at something specific that we can actually, you can mock it up without, you can say, here's 100 acres with this much frontage, with this stream running through it, and this is what the density would look like. We can make assumptions and look at things more generically without focusing on something that is somebody's property, actual property.
Well, we can look at also developments that have gone into other areas too.
Yes, we could.
I don't want to make it as a fight, but it's better to have real life examples to steer yourself with.
Sure.
I have three, I think at least two, maybe three steering committee members here that are not comfortable with this. And I have Maureen saying it too. So I have three here, and Maureen also.
I've said my piece then.
And so, Alice, I'll stand with you when the zoning comes through, okay?
All right.
Let's hope we can all laugh.
Yeah.
All right, so we will get a revised document to you by the end of December. We will meet on January 15th. So happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
This is Bob Singer. Can I make one comment?
Sure.
For the ad hoc committees that were discussed as far as historical dwellings and barns, the township can help facilitate getting information out, but the township doesn't have the resources to provide the persons manning those committees things, or even get, I don't believe, heavily involved in recruiting for those. So I would ask that, we get an individual that feels strongly about it, that would spearhead it. And the township, I'm sure, would, I can only speak for myself, would certainly do what they could in terms of communications in that area.
I think that was the goal. It wasn't to add it to the township trustees or the township as a whole. I think it was to make a comment in the sense that that's a good thing to give what we're saying as the fact that we want to maintain the history of Harlem Township, and we have a group already that kind of does Harlem Township history, but just to kind of further that sense of history and maintaining that. And I think that that's true. That's not something that we need to put on township administration.
And I would only say, I mean, I think to your point, or further your point, to the degree it's available, you can use the room, you could, we have the resources available where you can aggregate, but you don't need resources to run the meeting, take minutes, and all that fun stuff. I would say that'd be by the person that wants to lead the charge.
Yeah, I agree.
And just for clarity for my sake, I clearly came tonight because I was concerned about one issue in particular, and that's minimal density versus some other kind of density. And it sounds like we've come to the conclusion that we want to avoid the use of either minimal or appropriate and try to define low, moderate, and high. Yes. Both with words and with illustrations. So are we all on the same page there? I'm really good with that. I think that's a good place.
Yep.
I just think that puts everybody. We don't have a gray word.
That's right.
Yep.
We have, if somebody says, well, I just didn't think that appropriate
meant that.
I didn't think this meant appropriate. I was fine with appropriate, and this isn't appropriate to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And instead of having that argument later on, that we just establish it and then we
So you're going to say we think here it should be low, here it should be moderate,
Right.
and here we're comfortable with high.
whatever those words are,
Yep.
so that everybody's on a clear path.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
And without the pictures or what it looks like, that the words don't mean a damn thing.
Right.
Yep.
True. I agree.
Okay.
Awesome. Any comments from anybody else before we close out here? Well, I appreciate everybody's feedback. It was a great meeting. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Concentrated.
Concentrated. That's
Instead of high.
Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah.
Low, moderate, concentrated. That's a great word.
I got it.
My work here is done. I'm football to watch.